Okay, that's great.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, teacher Leila. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not bad. Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. And it's a great pleasure to meet you virtually.
Thank you.
And I think we had have some problems to connect to the live chat today, but
We got there in
now
the
I'm
end.
quite happy. Yeah, but now I'm quite happy to see you. And as we are informed and our audiences are informed, we are going to discuss some specific tips about English speaking through Instagram and via internet, the internet and technological internet or whatever we are going to show to our followers and audiences. But before anything, I'd like to ask you this question: that have you ever spoken Farsi to your audiences before?
Oh dear. Yes, I have. On the odd occasion, yes, I have.
Okay, that's great. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to request that you share some Farsi sentences with our followers and audiences.
I don't know if you can see I've gone red, but okay, thank you. سلام خدمت شما و همه فالوورهای عزیز شما و فالوورهای خودم. امیدوارم که حال همه خوب باشه. مرسی از دکتر علی که ریکوست کردن، منو دعوت کردن به این لایو. مرسی. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that was it.
That's great.
That was the extent.
خیلی ممنونم. That's very nice of you to to accept my request
Thank you
to
for
speak
having me.
Persian or Farsi for some sentences, since I think many followers of you have seen or have heard your voices in English. But let's move on to the questions that I'd like to ask you today regarding
Cool.
English speaking tips through Instagram. So I'd like to ask you, to what percentage, teacher Leila, Instagram can be helpful to upgrade or improve our English language and English speaking skills, specifically for those who are following different Instagram pages to get better and better day by day through Instagram posts by online teachers?
Thank you. So once again, thank you so much for inviting me and for having me on your channel,
My
on
pleasure.
your page. I think today's learners who are learning English, they're very different from, say, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, where a lot of learners had to rely on the concrete resources that they had, notes, handouts, books, etc. By the way, I cannot see you, unfortunately. I can just see myself. I can see the comments, but I can't see you. So if you're reacting, if you're nodding or shaking your head, I'm afraid I can't see you, but I can still hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know if that's a problem, but just to let you know, I can't actually see if you're showing any reaction to what I'm saying. Yes, so today's learners are very different to, say, 10, 15 years ago. And there is just so much information out there. There's so much, I call it noise out there, so many distractions on social media. On the one hand, obviously, it's made learning very enjoyable, very entertaining. These videos that you see, a lot of them, they don't even have any voice to them. There's no speaking element to them. It's literally just images and videos, and it's lovely. It's entertaining. But I think learners who are serious about learning a language need to be very careful with their selection. They need to be careful as to which pages they visit more. They need to be careful as to the content they want to listen to and learn. There are trends going on social media these days. There was one trend that I still can't get my head around why this was such a big deal, and that was a trend of where different teachers came up and they were talking about how you would refer to opening a can, how that would be different to opening a bottle, how that would be different to opening a, I don't know, a tub of mayonnaise. And for each of these, they would have a different word or different phrasal verb. Whereas in a typical English environment, all of them are open. Could you open the mayonnaise for me? Could you open this can of Coke for me? Could you open this bottle for me? And if there's too much noise out there, too much distraction out there, it can be off-putting. So I think there are people out there who are trying to teach very nicely and do a great job. Their graphics and everything are fantastic, but they are complicating matters a little bit more than they need to. And that is confusing students. I've got lots of students, Layla, is this correct? And Layla, how do you say this? And then how is it different to opening this? And I keep saying, well, we say open for all of them, unless you want to actually go through a lesson where you want to give synonyms of open, then yes, that would relate, but we usually use open. So learners do need to be careful that they don't get caught in this whirlwind of, all this information, etc., and not be distracted. Just choose maybe a few pages that they're comfortable with, they can relate to the teacher, and take it from there. Regarding the content that teachers post, there are teachers out there, obviously, present company excluded. There are teachers out there who are teaching incorrect English, unfortunately, and this is being passed down to students and their friends, etc. They do need to be careful that the page they're going to, the teacher they're going to, is teaching them proper English, correct English, not just English that they might pick up, from listening to another non-native English speaker. So they just need to be a bit more selective. But in my book, learning a language should be fun. It should be something that it should be incorporated in their lifestyle. To me, learning a language can't happen just for half an hour a day. That's not, if you're studying a language for a test, that's fine. But learning a language, learning to speak a different language so you can actually use it to live in another country, half an hour a day isn't going to cut it. They are going to need a lot more. They're going to have to thinking. They're going to have to start thinking in the target language in English. They're going to have to start even thoughts that they have to themselves. Oh, I really fancy a cup of tea. Instead of saying, Alon, chai mi chaspe, say it in English, even in their own head. I'm going to go put the kettle on, or I fancy a cup of tea. Even thoughts that they have to themselves. When they go out, they go to an unfamiliar surrounding, unfamiliar place. If they see objects, items, whatever, obviously subconsciously in our head, we start naming items, don't we, that we see, start naming them in English. Use every opportunity to start practicing, learning, listening, speaking, reading, thinking, everything in English. That is the first step, I think.
Yep, thank you, teacher Leila. Usually,
Layla is fine. Sorry, sorry,
can you
sorry.
see me?
Yes, Layla is fine. There's no teacher. Just
Okay,
Layla is fine. Thank
okay,
you.
that's okay. That's okay. Since this is the title that I usually use for my colleagues,
It's very
but
respectful. No,
Leila,
I appreciate that. Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you. I deem it necessary to appreciate you for the explanation that you've had regarding the tips that followers and learners can use to upgrade their knowledge, to learn more and more to speak English. But the thing that I'm curious to answer in this step of learning environment, since we are living in technological era, and everywhere we have different types of technological devices, including smartphones. Now we are living in an era that AI is available everywhere, so we can upgrade our English level and English skills faster than ever in comparison to the past. But the question comes to my mind, and maybe other people who are going to upgrade their English, is to what extent technology and the internet can be a good substitute for books, textbooks, and other resources or traditional resources.
Okay. To what extent can technology take the place of books, etc.? Right. That's a very good question. Um, as you mentioned, rightfully so, with the emergence of technology, it's you can't really escape um, the idea of technology and the important role that technology plays in learning. Even if anybody wanted to stick to the old school method of books and handouts and notes, I think they'll struggle to try and improve their English and enter the a higher level if they prefer and they, stick to their guns and not want to use technology. So technology is everywhere. You can't really escape it. One of the beauties, I think, of platforms like Instagram is that because of the sheer number of millions of people that use this, there's already tons of information on Instagram available free of charge for people to go and start learning. I'll give you an example. Comments. Very, very simple, freely available. If someone wants to learn English, instead of just limiting themselves to a certain few pages where it's Iranian teachers teaching English, English teachers teaching English, instead of just keeping to this learning English genre, why not expand their search a little bit more? Go into any field that they're interested in, be it cars, be it travel, beauty, makeup, babies, gardening, whatever it is. Go and find those kind of pages and then read the comments there left by a native English speaker. When I say native English speaker, I by no means mean just British, not at all. Native, for any country. The reason why I stress native, so that we can be sure that they're using idioms and phrasal verbs and the pure language, basically. It's not, they don't have the interference of another language. We want to make sure it's English, if that's what the student's looking for. So if they can land on a different page, let's say they're interested in beauty, or gardening, cars, whatever, they read the comments. A lot of the time you will see that this is in English. I don't know if it's the same in Farsi. The way we speak, that's exactly the same way that we comment. So we don't really pay attention to the grammar rules as such. Punctuation goes out the window. Spelling is horrific, but exactly the same way we speak, that's the same way we type when we want to leave a comment. That is spoken English. So this is a very valuable tool. Instead of listening to someone, because listening can be a very, very difficult skill to master, we don't have a lot of control when it comes to listening. Can't keep telling someone, sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry, what was that? But when you actually read someone's comment, it's like you're reading their spoken English. And that's where you can zoom in, look at the language that they've used, the idioms, the phrases. A lot of culture comes out of these comments as well, sarcasm and all these kind of things freely, readily available to students all over the world. Instead of just focusing on, grammar and vocabulary and is this correct? Does the verb and subject match? And just come out of that and look at English as like a basically a lifestyle, not just focusing on very specific aspects of the language. Because learning English, I'm sure you agree with me, is a complete package. It involves the discourse. It involves knowing what to say, whether it's appropriate to say right now, what tone, what register, what type of language to use, depending on the audience you're talking to, what kind of idioms are appropriate, for example, using sarcasm. I don't want to go too far. You find all of these in comments made by native English speakers. And hopefully the student will find it enjoyable because it's to do with their interest as well. It's to do with beauty, gardening, cars, travel, money, whatever it is that they're interested in. That is one thing that comes to mind, how they
That's
can use technology. And they don't have this with textbooks. They don't have this with notes. This is a huge gateway to unlimited amount of pure real English, in my opinion.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm with you, Leila. In this matter, we have to consider some other factors that may not be available through technology. So we have to focus on other types of methods of learning as well that you've mentioned clearly and obviously. So the next question that I'd like to ask you is about confidence. Many learners, specifically Farsi speakers or non-native speakers, are suffering from lack of confidence when they are going to speak with someone in English, or they're going to improve their motivation or their skills to speak better and better with someone from other country. Regarding confidence building, what strategies do you suggest to the followers and non-native speakers to use to upgrade their confidence to become better and better in speaking?
That's a very, very good point. A question that I'm sure yourself, as well as me, we're asked on a daily basis. How can I tackle the lack of confidence issue? And it's one of those aspects that has a thread through every aspect of our lives. It's not just at work. It also spills into if ever I need to have a conversation with my child's teacher. It spills into if I need to go to the supermarket and have a conversation there. Spills into my health if I want to tell the doctor, what kind of issue I'm having. So it affects all different aspects of our lives. Um, I I can completely understand how confidence plays an important issue. At the end of the day, we're human beings. Psychologically, we don't like to feel inferior. We don't like to feel like we are less than anybody else. Psychologically, we like to feel accepted. We like to feel part of the group. We like to feel like we belong. And if we're lacking in a certain aspect, we feel like we don't belong. We feel like we might be one step lower or less than the rest of the people around us. And this is hurtful. It's painful, absolutely, in any field, in any aspect. One thing I would highly recommend, and one thing I suggest to all of my learners is, first of all, do remember that you, the student, you are fluent in your own language. You're actually learning to speak a second language. Okay. So that is one step, that's one head and shoulders above a lot of the native English speakers that you interact with. So already you are one step ahead from that native English speaker you're talking to, because chances are that native English speaker can only speak the one language. You, the student, are learning your second language. You're already ahead. That's one thing I want learners to remember. The second thing is, instead of worrying about, was I able to form my sentence correctly? Did I use the right preposition? Was my phrasal verb correct? Did I separate it correctly or not? Was my idiom correct? Instead of worrying about these things, we need to try and keep it simple, get the job done. That in itself, I think, will improve confidence once we see that we've opened the gateway and communication is happening. We've been able to communicate our needs, our question, etc. Conversation is flowing. That will improve our confidence, and later on we can add to the vocabulary and improve our level of English. But apart from that, anybody, I mean, in any English speaking country, you see yourself, obviously, you live in the UK, you see the number of non-English speakers that live in the UK who are not Farsi speakers. Okay, I'm talking about the likes of people who are from Arabic countries, African, Pakistan, India, European. These people, when they want to speak English, I don't know if you've experienced this, but they just come out and say it, right? They really couldn't care less whether their sentence is fully correct, whether it's wrong, whether they've said the, they don't care. They just come out and say it, even if it's just blurting out words, phrases. They just want to get the job done by any means necessary, even using body language if they have to. So as long as we can convey our message, as long as the listener knows what we're trying to say. I think that's the first step, just to get the idea across, and then gradually the rest of it will come through practice, through listening, through copying. So if I am able to somehow string a sentence together, I know the grammar's wrong, I know the vocab is wrong, as long as I've managed to tell, for example, yourself what I'm trying to say, I need to forget about my mistakes. Now I need to focus on your response. But what happens with a lot of people who don't have confidence is they're not listening to the response. They're thinking, oh God, was my sentence correct? Did I use the right verb? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. And they're not listening to the reply and the response that they just requested in this question. So they're missing out on the conversation. Get it out, say what you want to say. This is usually what I tell my students. Say what you want to say. Don't worry about the grammar and vocab. That listener just wants to know, what do you want? What do you want to say? What are you trying to say? The rest of it will come in time. Learning English is, in my book, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We can't rush these things. These things will happen in time. So confidence will come in time. The main thing is just so the listener knows what Layla's trying to say. I've said this in my lives before. I've said it to other students as well before. I've got a Chinese family who've recently moved in next door. Lovely family, mother, father, and 2 kids. The parents know very, very little English. The wife, I don't think she knows any English. She's always got her son with her, who interprets. Her son is in primary school. The husband knows a little bit of English. And when they come out and we see each other sometimes, we want to bring the bins out ready for bin collection, or it's a nice day or whatever. We see each other. The husband really, it doesn't matter to him whether his sentence is correct or not. He just wants to make contact. He just wants to communicate. And when I respond and reply, he comes back with his next sentence. He's not worried whether what he's saying is right or not. And I don't think about, I couldn't care less whether his grammar is correct or not. I just want to know, what is this guy trying to say to me? So that's what it is. It's a lot of pressure, I think, that students are adding onto themselves. Rightfully so. They want it to be perfect, but perfection comes later, in my opinion.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Leila.
Sure.
The next question that is quite important regarding, Instagram followers and Instagram English learners. We are all informed that they are from different proficiency levels. So, as a teacher, as an online teacher, who is going to cover different areas and different proficiency levels, how do you tailor your English speaking or English teaching approach to cover different proficiency levels, specifically through your posts that you were creating?
That's a very good question.
Nice
Because you're absolutely right. You've got beginners who land on your page, and then you've got people who are near proficient, with an IELTS of 9, who land on your page. Yeah, how do you make the content relevant and interesting enough for both these extremes? Yes, absolutely. What I try to do is I try to take an everyday situation, which hopefully already captures my audience. It's an everyday situation. And in this, I try to, obviously, I've got the caption, I've got the subtitles, so that will help the lower levels. And for the upper levels, the higher levels, who I know are hungry for some kind of idiom or something they haven't heard of before, it's just using a simplified native version that they might not have come across in textbooks. I guess, I don't know, it's a little thing that I've got that, to a certain extent, I know what is covered in textbooks. I know what students are used to. They're used to quite academic English, and what's new to them and what they love is non-academic, general, just conversational English that they haven't come across as much. So I replace the academic version that they're used to with an idiom version or an expression or a cultural phrase that we might use or a phrasal verb or something like that that we might use. And that is how I try to engage the higher levels as well. One can only try. And yes, that's what I try to do.
That's great. Yeah, very lovely and interesting techniques that specifically for those who are interested in knowing more about the level of English which are coming from because some people are trying their best to focus on some specific levels. Many friends of mine or many followers have asked me this question that how can I find out which resources are relevant to my level or proficiency level? How can I find out if I'm studying as a self-study candidate, if I'm doing my best to upgrade my English level proficiency? How can I find out which level I am? And this is one of the maybe most common questions happened in different in different comments of a lecturer or a teacher from a country who is coming from a non-native speaking country. Okay, the next question that I'd like to ask you, Leila, is about British accent. Since many Iranians usually would like to adopt to a
American.
specific accent,
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to
whether
say American
American
accent.
or British. So,
Yes.
what are your strategies or effective strategies for those who are going to, adopt to a British accent in a very short period of time? What are your strategies recommended?
This idea of accent, just in brackets, if I can add, the idea of accent, a lot of people put a lot of focus onto it to the point where they think, some students might think that if their accent is British, then Americans or Canadians or Australians will not understand them. Or if their accent is American and they live in the UK, that they will not be understood easily. I just want to get rid of that myth that that is not the case at all, especially in today's day and age where you've got so many Americans living over here, you've got so many Brits living over in other countries, and so you hear all these different accents all the time. We hear people from Europe, don't we? They have their own European accent when they speak English, but we understand what they say. So it's going to be the same vice versa. If I go over there and speak with a British accent, they will understand what I'm trying to say. So this idea of accent that it has to be the same as the environment or else I will not be understood. This isn't accurate. It's not accurate. The same goes with idioms. They might not have certain idioms that we use over in the States, but they will understand what we're trying to say. They will have a very good idea. If I say to somebody, for example, oh, seriously, oh my God, get on your bike, they will know that that means, oh my God, stop kidding around, stop joking with me. They don't use the idiom get on your bike, but from my body language and from the topic that I'm talking about, they will know straight away because I've used it there. They know what it means. So I just want to get rid of that fear from people. In my opinion, if somebody wants to focus on an accent and they already live in the UK, depending on where in the UK they live, accents are different, as you know very well. The Brummie accent is very different to the Mancunian accent, to the London accent, etc., Cockney, and all of these. Um, Fortunately, on the glorious BBC website, there are channels dedicated to certain regions in the country. So I've got a very, very lovely, lovely lady who lives up in Glasgow in Scotland. And for example, let's say she wants to familiarize herself with the Scottish accent. All she has to do is just turn the TV on and watch one of the local programs that will include people from her area, from that part of the UK. It will include the type of language that they use, the accent that they use, and by listening that and copying, listening, copying, listening, copying, that's how they can adopt a language, an accent. The same goes for any other accent that people are interested in. That's how we copy accents. That's how I tried to copy the Farsi accent. Um, I mean, when it comes to English, I think learning the English accent is a lot easier than Farsi, because Farsi, you've got kh and you've got q, and believe me, these two kill to be able to learn to say them, especially if you've got a word where you've got both these sounds together. It is a nightmare to nail this down and get it right. Whereas English, they don't have these difficult sounds. So it's all a case of listen and repeat. And what I used to do actually is I used to have a dictaphone years and years ago. That gives you an idea of how old I am. And when I would say something in Farsi, I would listen to the original, I would say it, and I would play it back to myself. So I'm listening to the original and I'm listening to my version. And that's how I could see how close I am to the original, where I need to work on my accent. Because when we say something, we're focusing on how we're saying it. We're not really paying attention to how it sounds. Those two are different skills. But if I can listen to the original and listen to my own version, that will get me a bit more accurate, hopefully, in trying to pin down the right accent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Specifically for those followers who are going to adopt to British accent. So it could be, a great answer from Leila to find out how they can adapt to an accent, or does it necessary to accept or to adopt an accent or not. So the thing that is very important nowadays is using different resources far from whatever we have or we have had in the past from different textbooks. Since now we are, bombarding of different resources that are not coming from textbooks for learning English through social media, as including Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth. So, how can we trust which resources and which medias could be valuable and worthwhile to upgrade and adopt our English level proficiency in the best a bit in the best possibility that we are looking for. Sometimes we are going to focus on some specific areas, or to focus on just idioms or slangs, but we can see that some idioms are not common in English, but we are going to learn them. So, to what extent is it's important to find out which resources are valuable and worthwhile to get better and better in improving our English language?
Thank you. From my so I understood two different questions there. There were two questions, if I'm not mistaken. One
Exactly.
was, how do I know where to go for reliable resources? And the other one was, if I'm not mistaken, how should I prioritize learning? How should I know what
Yes,
I need to
exactly.
focus on? Okay, two questions. Very, very good questions again. The first one, I think the student, the learner, needs to take on some responsibility to try and do some research and see which teacher. All teachers are fantastic. Obviously, they give so much of their time, their energy, everything to teach. I mean, you yourself are a content creator. Content creator,
Nice of you.
whenever you want to publish a video, share a video, publish. Whenever you want to share a video, it might just be half a minute, but it's taken half a day. So much work goes into it, and some people don't know this. So teachers, obviously, regardless of whether they're native, whether they're proficient, etc., they put a lot of work into it. So my hat definitely comes off to all teachers. But the student does, I think, have a responsibility to make sure, excuse me, this person they're following is teaching correct English. And unfortunately, these days, we can't just go by the number of followers that a teacher has. There are teachers out there who might have followers in the thousands and millions even, but the English that they teach is either just taken from snippets of a song. And okay, that's lovely, but I'm sorry, if I go in a supermarket, that's not going to help me. If I want to talk to the doctor, a song from Adele isn't really going to help me. So students need to do the research themselves. Sorry, I've spoken a lot today. And come
That's okay.
and try and find a teacher who is creating content that's relevant. If someone wants to learn English just to know what a certain song is saying, learn English through songs, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to learn English for everyday English purposes, then that teacher might be a teacher you want to land on their page every now and then for entertainment. But you might want to gear your attention towards other teachers who are teaching more um, relevant English. So that's one thing I think that the student needs to take a bit of responsibility there. And how do students know if this teacher is teaching correct English or not? Um, I mean, today we've got all these tools. A lot of people are saying ChatGPT is very accurate. You type in a sentence and you ask it, is this accurate English? If it isn't, then you start questioning that teacher who has given you this kind of English. And then you trial and error a few more times. Every time you put the sentence in to ask if this is grammatically correct, and ChatGPT says, no, this is wrong, you start doubting, maybe that's not the best teacher for me to follow at the moment. Maybe I need to widen my search and go looking for someone else. Um, Students do send me profiles of other teachers, other pages, and I really don't like to do this because it's like I'm stabbing my own colleague in the back. But students come to me and they say, Layla, is this English correct? Is this teacher using correct English? And I just give a yes or no answer because I don't want to get involved in saying whether they're a good teacher or not. I literally just judge the English itself and I say it's either correct or not. So the student needs to take a bit of responsibility there. The second question, which was prioritizing what to learn, um,
Exactly.
I think of it this way. My lifestyle, what do I do in my job, for example? What's my job? If I work in a nail salon, for instance, if I work in a car garage, for example, I am most probably going to need language that is suitable to if I work in a garage, I need to know the language for, fixing the car, the language I would need for my customers, what kind of questions are they prone to ask, what kind of things am I more likely to need to say to inform them. So this is the kind of language that I need to zoom in on a little bit more. There's a bit more urgency there compared to, bless her, what Adele is singing in her song. So that's how we can prioritize where to focus a little bit more. If I'm working in a restaurant, then obviously I want to be good at small talk. I've got my customer. I don't want to bring my menu and my notepad and say, hi, what are you having? Obviously, I want to start a rapport. I want to have a bit of a friendly chat, with the customer, make them feel comfortable, and then say, right, so what are we having today? So this is the kind of English I would suggest students prioritize, thinking, what do they need in their own lives, in their own world of work, in their own line of work, in their own whatever it is they're doing, and try and zoom in there. Because obviously English, as you know, is an ocean. Where do you start from? I mean, it's impossible. So prioritizing what sections to go for first, I think that just gives you an overall general plan that you can work towards gradually, just bite sized. Right, this month I'm going to learn how to make small talk with a customer. Yeah. Next month, I'm going to learn how to, for example, I don't know, make a request. So just little bite-size learning, prioritizing that way. I think that might help with students.
Yep. That's great. Thank you. And since the time is short, I don't want to take up your time more than this. But as the last question that I'd like to ask you is specifically about grammar. Many students or many learners are going to improve their grammar, but their hatred of using grammar books, unfortunately, because of being boring or so on and so forth. So, what's your preference for upgrading and having improvement in grammar structures and so on and so forth? What do you suggest to them?
That's a very good question. I don't think anybody
Thank you.
enjoys grammar. Thank you. I don't think anybody enjoys grammar that much because at the end of the day, it's rules. We don't like rules, do we? We want to be free. Um,
Mm.
so one thing I would suggest to make learning grammar a little bit easier is to incorporate grammar in conversation, not look at it as a separate entity, not look at it as something completely separate to English. It's part of English. So when I pick up a newspaper, if I'm interested in decorating, home decoration or building or whatever it is I'm interested in, I pick up a newspaper and I start reading an article. It's not only going to help me with my reading skills, my idiom, obviously my culture, etc. That's where I can zoom in on the grammar as well. Oh, right, so they're using present simple here. And then I can go and research, when do we use present simple? Right, so present simple happens when it's a habit, it's a routine all the time, permanent. And that is how I'm learning present simple in context. Taking grammar out of context and looking at it as a separate subject, in my opinion, it makes it very boring because then, okay, I've learnt present simple, but then I'm going to go out now. How can I learn it? Sorry, how can I use it? So, incorporating it in conversation, I think that's key. Hopefully, it will make it more interesting. But at the second time, sorry, but also it will, through practice, it's going to help to improve that grammatical point as well. Definitely. I can't hear you. I might have lost you. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's my internet connection, but I'm afraid I think I might have lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, yes.
I don't know what's wrong with the net
It's
today.
okay.
So yeah, thank you. And as the last word that I'd like to ask you, if you have any extra or additional advice for our followers, this is the time that you can share with us and with our followers and audiences. And the last but not least, as I've said, this kind of live session could be quite cooperative and useful for those who are going to upgrade their knowledge regarding learning English. However, maybe I've seen different messages that they've said, we don't understand what you are talking about, but I'll try to give some captions later or give some, translation to those who are interested in knowing more. So, as the last, advices, if you want to share with us, this is the floor that you can.
Thank you very much. In my opinion, and I think this is correct for any language, in my opinion, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we can't really separate different aspects of language. We can't say, right, that's grammar, that's vocabulary, that's pronunciation, it needs to be together. And one aspect that people tend to forget is the culture behind it. If I say to somebody who's just come to my house, Salam biatu bishin, that's not seen as very polite, especially if it's someone I'm not very close to, especially if it's a stranger. The culture of Iran will not allow me to say to somebody bishin, even though bishin and befarmayin they have the same meaning. Culturally, it's acceptable to say to my guest befarmayin. Okay, whereas in English we
Mhm.
say take a seat, sit. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. So I think one thing that some people tend to forget is making sure that they educate themselves about the culture as well. I was talking very quickly. I was talking to a student yesterday, a lovely, lovely lady yesterday, and she had been asked to give feedback to a student who'd created a presentation. Now, from my understanding, obviously in Iran, if someone has asked to give feedback, they just say, this is wrong, correct this is wrong, that's it. Here, that would be really, really bad. That would be horrible. The person thinks, oh my God, I've done nothing right. So, culturally, here, first we start off by giving some praise, giving some good comments. I really like the amount of work you've put in. I can tell you've really put a lot of time, sweat, energy into this. Areas for improvement are this, this, and this. Both people are doing the same job. They're giving this student feedback, but they're doing it differently based on different cultural backgrounds. So one aspect, again, I would suggest is that they look at the culture as well, not just the language, not just what comes out of our mouth. That's it.
That's very nice of you. Deem it necessary to appreciate you sincerely once again to
Thank you.
join me in, specifically for this live session that we had. And not only me, but also audiences and followers will use and used, the comments, the suggestions, techniques that you've mentioned. And as an English teacher that I've been teaching for a long period of time, this is my pleasure to meet you
Thank you.
virtually.
Likewise.
And
Thank you.
even I really enjoy your content creating posts that you usually try your best to transfer whatever followers are going to learn about situational English. That I love that.
Thank
And
you.
so this is my pleasure that I had you today. And if you want to share with us anything else as the last word, we are all ears.
Thank you. Learning English is a journey. Instead of focusing on the destination, I think the idea should be focusing on the journey itself. Making mistakes as part of it. We learn through our mistakes, so it's very important to make mistakes and just don't rush it. It'll happen in time. Just don't give up. That's the only thing. Don't give up. That's all I can
You should
suggest.
be patient.
Yes,
Yeah, you should be
absolutely.
patient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So that's very nice of you, Leila, and
Thank you.
wish you the best of luck. Hope to see you in no time, in not too distant future, face to face. I
Mhm.
mean, physically, we can talk and speak about English skills in not too distant future for sure.
Sure.
So wish you the best, and thank you for joining us
Thank
today,
you. Thank you very
and
much.
hope to see you again very soon.
Thank
And
you.
ممنون که امروز در لایو ما شرکت کردید. خیلی قطعا نه تنها بنده و حتی بقیه فالوورها اودینس ها لذت بردن و
Merci.
استفاده کردن. ممنون که با ما بودید، وقتتون رو با ما گذاشتید و ببخشید اگر کم بودی، کسری چیزی بود و
No.
یا سوالهای دوستان داشتن که نتونستیم کاور بکنیم، چون سوال من سعی کرده بودم در یکی دو هفته اخیر سوالات مختلف رو حالا جمع آوری بکنم که از شما بپرسم، سوالاتی که هم ذهن حالا مخاطبین رو در بر گرفته بود، هم برای بنده خب سوالات مهمی بود که پرسیده بشه. به هر حال ممنونم. Wish you the best of luck and hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed
Thank you.
this. If I've been
Thank
any
you.
help at all, that's great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wish you the best. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.